Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the meeting of the Audit Committee to order, please. Michelle, are there any speakers?
No, Madam Chair, we have no public speakers today.
Okay, next, then we're going to have right into the approval of the October 23rd, 2023 Audit Committee minutes. Any corrections or changes? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you. And a second? Thank you. We approve the minutes? Aye. The minutes are approved. Michelle, can you take us through the work plan, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. There will be 4 meetings this year, and the specific agenda items for each meeting can be found on pages 8 through 14 of your committee book. The proposed work plan was included in the committee materials in October. We have one change to the work plan since then. The information technology report has been moved from the January to the May Audit Committee meeting.
Any questions? Okay, may I have a motion to accept the 2024 Audit Committee work plan? Thank you. Second? Thank you. The work plan is approved. Next up is Deloitte to present the results of their review of the third quarter of the 2023 MTA Consolidated Interim Financial Statements. The financial statements will be issued in final form after the Audit Committee review and approval. Jill Strohmeyer, Managing Director, will give the presentation. Before Jill begins, Jim McGovern, Acting Deputy Chief, has one correction on the materials presented in your book.
Yeah, hello. I just want to point out one correction on the income statement for the prior year amounts. The September 22 amounts weren't updated. They're really the June 30. The correct amounts are reflected in page 9 on the condensed income statement. All the MD&As and the comparisons to prior year numbers are accurate. It's really just a labeling error that's on the
Right.
prior year numbers on the
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon. Deloitte is currently in the process of completing our quarterly review procedures for the MTA's consolidated interim financial statements for the 9-month period ended September 30th, 2023. Just a reminder, a review of interim financial information is less in scope than an audit, so we're not performing a full audit. And our procedures primarily consist of analytical procedures, comparing information from a prior period to this period, as well as inquiries of management and those responsible for the information that's contained within the statements. Based on our reviews at this time, barring the change that Jim just made, we're not aware of any material modifications that should be made to these interim financial statements for them to be in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. And we'll be in a position to issue our report final later this week.
Great. Thank you, Jill. Are there any questions? May I have a motion to accept the third quarter 2023 financial statements? Thank you. A second? Thank you. The third quarter consolidated financial statements are accepted. As required by the State Budget Office, the third quarter 2023 financial statements will be brought to the full board on Wednesday for a vote with a recommendation to approve from the Audit Committee members. Next, we will have Lamont Kears, MTA Chief Compliance Officer, who will brief the committee on selected aspects of the Enterprise Risk Management Program and agency compliance with the MTA's internal control guidelines. Lamont?
All right, good afternoon and Happy New Year. I'm going to run through very quickly the presentation today. First of all, we break down the entire structure of the MTA that we look at from ERM perspective into separate categories. What I'm trying to emphasize in this slide is that, not surprisingly, the bulk of the work that we are doing in ERM focuses on operational issues at Long Island Railroad, Metro-North Transit, et cetera. During the last year, we looked at over 1,400 risk assessments. As you can see, each year we're increasing the number of risk assessments that we are doing. In terms of changes, this year there were 82 for 2023, excuse me, changes that were noted by the various agencies and departments. We also conducted controlled self-assessments with all the different agencies and departments. In 2023, we conducted 1,365 controlled self-assessments. Of that number, 1,298 passed, 67 of those failed. Now, I need to apologize for this slide. While it's a very pretty slide, it's somewhat misleading. So there's a segment in there that says 7% of the 67 that failed were material. It was actually only one. So next year, I'm going to give you a more, not so pretty a slide, but one that's perhaps more reflective of what the number is. That one dealt with personal protective equipment. It was not a primary control. In other words, it wasn't the equipment that failed or people not wearing the equipment, but there was a secondary control around maintaining lists of titles and individuals that was not being updated in a timely fashion. Because it involved safety and PPE, it automatically became material in our view. Remediation plans. We continue to see the plants being opened. Michelle's group is doing excellent work, keeping us all very busy, as well as the IG. So in the quarter, there were 97 that were opened, but I'm very happy to say in that same quarter, they closed out 105. So the agencies have been very busy closing them out. So that's my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Lamont. Any questions? Lisa?
Just a quick question or clarification. On the 67 that failed, we saw how it was broken up. What's the remedy? What's the process to cure those 67?
So we have an automated system, right? So when they fail, depending on the level of significance, an automatic remediation plan is created. That's part of that number that you saw, the 97. I give Michelle a lot of credit because she does an enormous amount of work in her team. But some of those are as a result of those testing. So out of that 97, some of them are ours that are a result. Now, some of those are what we call documentation only. So there are different levels. There's material, which I mentioned, significant deficiency, and then documentation only. And those are minor, right? So, for example, if there was a control required 3 signatures and there were only 2 missing on one document out of our sample, we're not going to fail the whole thing as material, but we will document the fact that the control wasn't being done exactly as it was supposed to be done, and then corrections are being made, but it's not being tracked as a remediation. It has to be deficiency or above for us to start tracking it as a remediation. You're welcome.
Good. Okay. Continuing with Lamont, he will present the results of the all-agency internal control reports issued to the New York City Division of Budget as required by the Government Accountability, Audit, and Internal Control Act. Lamont?
That's on the agenda. So at this point, as I mentioned before, we are tracking remediation plans, which is not what's on the agenda right now. But we have continued to work with the Authority Budget Office in terms of compliance with the requirements of the Internal Control Act. And at this point, I'm happy to say that we are fully compliant with all the requirements. The board has issued the required guidelines. As you noticed on my previous slide, we have in fact done the risk assessments, we have done the control testing, we have been actively involved in training and education efforts. So the program itself is fully compliant with all the requirements.
Great. Thank you, Lamont. Any questions for Lamont or the agency internal control officers? Okay, great. Yes, good. One last item. Lamont has a brief report on the status of audit recommendations previously accepted by the agencies. Lamont?
So at this board's request, corporate compliance has been monitoring for several years now the remediation plans, which I had mentioned before, in terms of any of them that are going 6 months past their original implementation date. I just want to take 2 seconds to just say one point about that. Compliance is kind of looking this, with blinders on, right? We don't look at the universe of what's going on, what's happening. So in some of these instances, these individuals in the department may have gone back to audit services. There are circumstances beyond their control. Compliance has the wonderful position of saying, we don't care what's going on in the universe and the world. We have blinders on, get it done, we don't care what's going on. So just to be fully transparent on that. So this is very hard to see at this particular point. They are in your book. The key takeaway here is that we are monitoring them on an ongoing basis. We are communicating with the agencies and the departments on an ongoing basis to ensure that we are getting them in and they are being closed. There are a few that are 6 months past due, as you can see from this slide. I'm going to go to the end. So at this point, I'm happy to say at this point we are reporting 16 out of everything are now 6 months past due, which is pretty consistent with where we've been. So there's been no significant uptick. It's been pretty constant. They are being closed and open. But remember, this is a rolling process, so as time doesn't slow down for any of us, it doesn't slow down for this either. So as they close them, there's some that are coming due and then end up on this report. But it's pretty consistent, and the key takeaway from that previous slide is that they are being closed on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you, Lamont. Any questions? Yes, Lisa.
Just one quick one. The prior two slides shows that the largest numbers fall under the MTA headquarters. Can you clarify that for me a little bit?
So with transformation, a lot of the functions have been consolidated, so they roll up to headquarters now. And so, things that historically had been, say, procurement within each of the agencies are now all at headquarters. And so all of those recommendations rolled up to headquarters, even if they were made prior to a specific agency. So that's why you see headquarters growing. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Next, we have Michelle Woods, Auditor General, who will discuss MTA Audit Services activities and accomplishments in 2023 and present the proposed audit plan for 2024. Michelle?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yes, I would like to update the committee on the year-end status of the 2023 audit plan, present a summary of the proposed 2024 audit plan. Our mission in audit services is to provide insightful, proactive, and future-focused quality results while promoting governance, considering risks and controls, and identifying organizational improvements. I would like to thank my direct reports, who are sitting right here, Darren Jurgens and Phyllis Richardson, as well as the entire audit staff for the results we achieved in 2023. During the year, we completed 81 operational and assurance audits. These audits identified 149 findings for which the audit teams made recommendations to improve internal controls and compliance with established processes while reducing risk. We identified potential operating cost savings and efficiency opportunities of $17.5 million. These include opportunities to reduce costs, avoid unnecessary expenditures, or otherwise enhance revenue collection. These audit recommendations are tracked in the Compliance Governance Risk and Control System, which Lamont just spoke about, to ensure they are properly implemented. We also performed 957 audit reviews related to capital projects. This work included reviews of cost proposals, interim reviews, closeout audits, and audits of claims to ensure contract billings were appropriate. Third-party question costs identified in those projects were $54.9 million. Our past experience has demonstrated an 80% recovery rate for these question costs, and I am not doing my presentation. Thanks. Yeah. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's the savings, right? The 17.5 for the operations and the 54.9 on the capital side. Some of the significant operational audits this year included reviews of professional service contracts, personal actions, and accounts payable. Our capital contract auditors worked with project management to review additional work orders, claims, and perform some final audits of projects that were completed during the year. Sandy Audit Unit, the onboard program, I skipped it. There we go. In 2013, with the approval from the Audit Committee, we established a Sandy Oversight Committee in cooperation with the MTA to perform independent integrity monitoring services for those projects which received FTA emergency funding related to Sandy. In honor of our commitment to the FTA, our Sandy Audit Unit continued to perform assurance audits, and we report the results to the FTA on a quarterly basis. Since this unit was established in 2013, we've completed 154 projects, made 404 recommendations, and identified cost adjustments of approximately $67 million. As required by the grant funding agreement, we will continue to perform audits of ongoing Sandy projects, and we have committed to following up on all recommendations until they are fully implemented. The Pension Quality Assurance Function was established in 2013 at the request of HQ Management. This group reviews the pension calculations of the defined benefit plans for Metro North, MTA Police, MTA Bus, and Long Island Railroad's open and closed plans. They provide pension management with the results of the reviews daily so that the corrections can be made prior to the original pension payments being processed. Quarterly reports summarizing the QA results are also provided to the Pensions Management Group so that they can identify trends and areas for reinstruction. In 2023, the Pension QA Group reviewed over 1,400 pension calculations, identified 205 errors, which included 75 with a financial impact of approximately $4 million. The on-board audit team performed over 6,400 tests this year to ensure that conductors are collecting the correct fare and they are following standard operating procedures. The results of these tests were reported to the agency management, who utilized the information in their estimates for the rate of fare not collected and the improper fare collected. Information from the observations also allows management the opportunity to adjust resources where needed. Peer review. The MTA Audit Services follows the Institute of Internal Auditors standards and is required to receive a peer review every 5 years as outlined in the IAA's Internal Professional Standards Framework to fulfill this requirement. The peer review assesses an audit organization's design and operating effectiveness of its internal quality control system and adherence to policies, procedures, and applicable auditing standards. This is an external review. It has to be external from the MTA. In the fourth quarter of 2023, the Association of Local Government Auditors performed a peer review of the MTA Audit Services. ALGA confirmed that our internal quality control system was adequately designed and working as intended, and noted that additional areas that we excelled as it relates to audit coverage, planning, staffing, and communications of audit results. The team did have one suggestion to make an improvement related to documenting the staff's independence. Our internal policies already included a requirement for staff independence, but we did not document this on each and every project in those work papers. We took immediate action, updated our audit planning process to require specific documentation of the auditor's independence in the work papers. The next peer review will be performed in 2028. Now for the 2024 audit plan. This has been discussed with each of the agency presidents and the MTA tower leads for their input. The foundation of the audit plan was developed through a formal risk assessment that is performed in accordance with the Institute of Internal Auditors standards. We began our planning process in September, and it takes us several months to complete, resulting in a comprehensive risk assessment which is fully documented. Consistent with prior years, the risk assessment sources include financial data, an assessment of the nature of operations, control activities, and previous audit results. We conducted 82 management interviews and identified 156 potential audit recommendations. We prioritized the audit suggestions and developed a proposed audit plan with 91 operational assurance audits for 2024. I met with the agency presidents and tower leads to discuss and finalize the proposed plan to ensure the areas of greatest risk will have appropriate audit coverage. And of course, also went over this information with the chairman. This is just a snapshot of where some of the 91 audits are in the 2024 plan. They fall under each of the business functions. With service delivery, we're going to ensure management continues to inspect and maintain their system in a state of good repair. With finance, we'll closely monitor actions taken by management related to the cost savings initiatives that you've heard about at the agency meetings. We'll also look at timekeeping as well as oversight and assignment of overtime. For safety, we plan to perform audits of incident accident reporting, MTA police comp time, and various safety practices. In human resources, we will focus on hiring, employee availability, and health benefits. We will also perform revenue audits at each agency. In addition to our third-party reviews of capital contracts, we will continue with our required Sandy program and New York City Engineering Audit Office reviews, which are required for any projects that have city funding. Our procurement audits will continue to ensure that we spend our resources effectively and efficiently and in accordance with the contract terms and conditions. And finally, our technology audits will support the consolidated organization and cover areas such as network, cybersecurity, disaster recovery, and application reviews. This is a visual representation of how we plan to allocate the resources associated with our assurance audits during the year. You can see that the MTA headquarters resource allocation is higher than it was in prior years, primarily due to the increase in consolidated functions, which will cover all agencies. This is just a breakdown of how we spend our time within the department. The management and administration is the executive team, the audit directors, that sort of thing. And then we have the assurance operational audits, which Phyllis leads, and the capital program audits that are led by Darren. And then Phyllis also has a director who is responsible for the pension QA and the onboard revenue functions. In 2024, we will focus our efforts to support the initiatives of the MTA to improve efficiency and effectiveness of operations. We will also continue to support agency-wide operational goals with respect to cost savings initiatives and evaluate contractor performance. Looking ahead, we're going to continue to coordinate our audit activities with our external auditors. Thank you, Deloitte. The City and State Controller's Office, the MTA Chief Compliance Office, MTA Inspector General. We also coordinate with the Office of Construction Oversight, as they now report up through me. And we will, this concludes the presentation, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. As you know, I sent a copy of the operational audit plan, so it lists all of those 91 audits specifically to you, and we're happy to answer any questions you have about those.
Yeah, a lot of good work, Michelle, and
That was
your
a good year.
team, your team. Thank you. That's a lot of work done and good results. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions? May I have a motion to accept the proposed 2024 audit plan? May I have a second? Okay, the 2024 audit plan is accepted. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? Okay, thank you. The audit committee meeting is adjourned. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Well done.